patriot even. When you like to party, but are still passionate about discussing important issues, the only place where your needs will be met is WESN Content Capital.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, heart disease claims a life every 34 seconds.
Our relative sitting down across the table is experiencing a heart attack as we speak.
It is important to seek medical attention urgently because prompt treatment of a heart attack could prevent extensive damage and death. Therefore, one should try to get to a hospital as soon as possible, preferably by ambulance.
WESN.
Here is WESN's News on the Hour. I'm Sean Michael Small. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Prime Minister criticizes opposition's priorities amid anti-crime concerns. Claxton Bay man in court for 2 separate murders. Massey Women's Caribbean Premier League sets record viewer numbers in 2023. And regionally, Venezuela sets presidential election date for July 28th. Now for the details. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has voiced criticism against the United National Congress for its perceived lack of engagement with the government on crucial anti-crime strategies. Speaking at the Skiffle Bunch Pan Theatre in San Fernando during his Conversations with the Prime Minister series, Dr. Rowley expressed frustration over the absence of discussions with the UNC while highlighting their recent meeting with St. Lucia's opposition leader Alan Chastanet, whom he referred to as Tropical Trump.
But they sitting down with Chastanet as if St. Lucia, who had Chastanet in their government to run their country, threw him out of office unceremoniously, but in Trinidad to try to tell us how to run Trinidad. No thanks, Tropical Trump. But it just shows you where some people's interests are.
A Claxton Bay man has appeared in court charged with 2 murders arising out of separate incidents which occurred in November 2023 and February 2024. Mark Nelson, aka West, 33, was charged with the murders of Lyndon Marcus, which occurred in Claxton Bay on November the 7th, and Luca Goring, which occurred in Gasparilla on February the 16th. Mark Nelson appeared before Master Shah in the San Fernando High Court on Monday the 4th of March 2024. The matters will next be heard on July 26th. The Massey Women's Caribbean Premier League, WCPL, made waves in 2023 by shattering previous viewership records. The tournament, which expanded to include matches in Barbados and Trinidad, attracted a staggering 36.2 million viewers across broadcast and digital platforms. This surge in viewership marked a remarkable 45% increase from the previous year, highlighting the growing global interest in women's cricket and the WCPL specifically. The 7-match tournament culminated in an intense final at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, where the Barbados Royals triumphed over the Guyana Amazon Warriors to claim the coveted title. Notably, the final match emerged as the most watched event of the tournament. Chief Executive Officer of the CPL, Pete Russell, emphasized the growing global interest in women's cricket. Regionally, Venezuela has scheduled its highly anticipated presidential election for July the 28th, coinciding with the birthday of the late Venezuelan leader Hugo Chavez, as announced by officials on Tuesday. The decision marks the commencement of a condensed campaign period, raising concerns about the involvement of the opposition's key candidates and international observers. President Nicolas Maduro is widely anticipated to seek re-election in the upcoming polls. Initially, his government engaged in negotiations regarding the election specifics with a faction of the opposition supported by the United States government. However, growing disparities between the two sides have emerged over the past 2 months, casting doubts on the electoral process's integrity and inclusivity. Well, that's news on the hour on WESN. I'm Sean Michael Small. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Constance Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. A very good day to you and I hope all is well. My first conversation this morning focuses on Caribbean integration. Broadly speaking, that is the purpose of CARICOM. Now there are many more tenets to it, hence me saying broadly speaking. But the conversation stems from what we hear at every heads of government meeting every year, where CARICOM is important, it is absolutely essential, and Caribbean integration is necessary for the future of small island states. Apart from that, we also learned yesterday from the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, that Attorney Generals from across CARICOM member states will meet to finally push forward the agenda of free movement of CARICOM citizens amongst member islands. So let's just expand on this a bit to see whether CARICOM really is working as intended or is serving the purpose as it should. I'm joined by a lecturer at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine Campus in Political Sciences, Mr. Yuvan Das. He's with us virtually. Hello, sir. Welcome to the program.
Morning. Welcome, everyone.
Well, Thank you very much for joining us on the program. So as I said, broadly speaking, CARICOM's real purpose is Caribbean integration. Is it currently living up to the principles upon which it was instituted?
Well, I would say yes and no, because there are certain policies that could have been enacted sooner, and I would say policy coordination towards the regional integration purpose, freedom of movement, and other regional transportation, tariff removals, and embargo systems could have been done earlier, especially towards economic integration and to form a political union. And we are lacking behind on those fronts.
Mm-hmm. Now, in that sense, as we've been hearing within recent times, the push for regional ferry service, we've learned of one within the private sector that already has been put in place, and now we're hearing one amongst the various member states within the Caribbean as well to launch a regional ferry service. But then we're also learning of a push to ensure that there's a freedom of movement amongst people. Listen, CARICOM was enacted in 1973. Why do you suppose that it's taken so long for us to get to this point?
Well, there are certain problems with regional integration in the region. Since the 1960s, when the Federation failed, there was a lack of political coordination. There was a lack of, buying into removing sovereignty and giving up a certain leeway towards economic policies and political policies. So that still exists to an extent today. The region has not fully opened up to the fact that we need to sacrifice some level of sovereignty to gain headway into coordination efforts towards regional integration. So external relations between our islands, should have been developed sooner. And all of the efforts towards the skill certificate that we have to allow persons to move from island to island should have been enacted sooner. We were not part of the table discussion at that point in time and agreed on all the standards that need to be met especially, the promotion of legal frameworks to support laws and developments for freedom of movement. Now we are hearing that it's on the table again. Let's see how it works, because in the past, we had some level of travel and integration, but it's not fully enacted. We're hearing that it's going to be fully enacted after this discussion, but I don't think that, it might happen as soon as we think.
Mm-hmm. Now, that issue of sovereignty, has it really affected the purpose of CARICOM? Has that been possibly the more probable reason as to why CARICOM has not been fully implemented within Caribbean member states?
It's one of the main reasons. Encroaching on our island's sovereignty and, informing policies at a regional level has its advantages and disadvantages. And I think that a lot of the reasons, it's a lack of, coordination. It's a lack of strengthening of the institutions' capacity that we share regional basis with. So regional institutions based on agriculture, health, tourism, needs capacity building. It needs strengthening so that we can create that coordination policy to work effectively. So sovereignty itself is one factor. It's funding, it's cultural clashes, it's the ability to adapt to funding to which island is equitably associated with the requisite amount of funding that they need to develop these policies, because that's one of the reasons why the Federation failed. Some of the islands felt that they were going to give more in terms of economics than the other smaller islands. So the contribution was not equitable. So part of it still exists today. How do we share the responsibility of these regional integration efforts? And if you look at the conundrum now with the new ferry system, who's going to foot the bill? And which island is going to pay more to maintain the route, to maintain the ferry? What about if something happens and it breaks down? Are we going to share responsibility and foot the bill?
Mm-hmm. Now, sorry, continue.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask, and if we take a look at the West Indian Federation and what led to its collapse versus the issues within CARICOM, how is it that CARICOM has been able to survive up until this point? It's been able to withstand the pressures that, were associated with the collapse of the West Indian Federation.
Right, because after the collapse, we have been able to move forward towards several collaborations. Those collaborations have not crossed our sovereign borders in terms of enacting policy frameworks to synchronize and allow for policies to affect national sovereignty just yet. It's only accompanied by cooperation. So I think that the islands have been very slow in this delivery when compared to other economic unions such as the EU and other upcoming economic unions that we are seeing across the world. So the trade organizations, the removal of certain